What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the God of War Ragnarok previews that hit the internet this morning. There's a couple of interesting things. One very interesting thing with Thor that I want to specifically talk about, and the rest are they've been blanket statements. That's okay. That's kind of what was expected. One thing to immediately notice, right? If you were looking online, you were like, oh my God, I can't wait to see, all of this new footage and stuff. There is no new footage. The only things that are new is I think, maybe 6 to 8 screenshots. There's new screenshots of the game, but if you go look at the videos that anybody is doing on this game, whether it's from like the GameSpots and IGNs or PlayStation Access, which I watched theirs, or like ACG, they're not using, and you can't use, new stuff, new footage. They're still using the trailers of of God of War Ragnarok or God of War 2018. So that's how it's going. There's nothing new in terms. You're not going to see the Thor fight. All right, basically that's kind of the case, but in terms of blanket statements, just to kind of get those out of the way early, the game seems incredible. Now, these are just impressions. These are people that got the game extremely early, so you can take it with a grain of salt. You can say they're bought off, or they're not trying to step on anybody's toes. You can have whatever opinion of these people that you want to have, but doesn't change the fact that they're saying very good things about it, right? The DualSense controller seems to be like a match made in heaven for this game. The visuals is something that people are really focusing on. Obviously, we're in the era, the last like week and a half, of 30 frames per second, etc. And this game has multiple graphic settings. You can get it all the way to 120 FPS. There's other, there's performance mode, fluidity mode. So there's a couple. Actually, there's I think 6 or 5 in all that you can change in this game. So visually, people seem to be blown away. The combat, from what I was reading from some and then listening to others, seems to kind of just like pick right up where it left off. Obviously, there's new things in the combat, but if you had which actually is funny because I just replayed God of War 2018, I saw a couple people say like, hey, if you just did that, you're going to come into this game and it's going to feel like amazing because you're going to already, be in it. Whereas maybe if you didn't, maybe it'll take a little bit longer to get going. And so, yeah, a lot of positives. Now, one of the most interesting previews that came out was the PlayStation blog. I implore you guys to read it, but I want to focus on the Thor fight specifically, and they do go through a couple other things that I want to focus on, but the Thor fight is really interesting. So if you love the bombastic Baldur encounter at the start of God of War 2018, look forward to clashing axe and hammer with Thor in a similarly spectacular battle. Thor unleashes a combo of grabs, lightning-infused Mjolnir blast, area of effect volleys, and more. The two gods grapple and fly through the air as the battle rages across multiple frozen landscapes. Okay, that's important. Thor's assault is non-stop, peppering in cutting insults against Kratos' parenting skills when he's not outright attacking. It's a memorable encounter that left me eager for a rematch against the God of Thunder. Now, I don't know, like, is this a spoiler or not? So I don't know, like, for you guys, I don't know if you're like, oh my God, Alex, don't talk about it. I mean, click away now. I mean, I already technically read it out loud, but it does tell us a couple different things. In my opinion, right? The fact that they compare it so much to Baldur obviously could just be because it's somewhat early in the game. Now, I think it's like very early in the game. You go through multiple locations, which is the same thing as Baldur, and even the kind of talking to you mixed in between fighting is very similar, to what Baldur did. So you have that, but the most important thing is that last sentence. It's a memorable encounter that left me eager for a rematch against the God of Thunder. Now, look, to me, this is not surprising. In fact, I feel really good about myself because many people, including myself, said you're going to fight Thor more than once. Now, I don't know how much of a new thing that maybe is to your guys' ears. If you looked at Thor as the Baldur of God of War Ragnarok, you might have expected to face him multiple times, and that definitely is happening. So what we can get from this, this is the only preview that's talked about specifically Thor that I saw. Maybe there's ones that I, didn't read yet or didn't listen to, but this is one that talks about Thor that, and that really stood out to me in that they basically confirm it's very early in the game and that you're going to fight him a second time. So this fight ends in a stalemate or whatever. Now, my theory still, and I actually have a video coming out on this in a few days, is this is going to be when Odin visits Atreus. I talk about how I think that could work in that video, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but it's starting to come together. Honestly, it's really starting to come together. But you go down actually in the PlayStation blog, and they go through a couple other stuff. They talk about Raider Rumble. Hardy, violent raiders wander the wildwoods, attacking Kratos because they know he's responsible for bringing in Fimbulwinter. These melee and ranged foes are easy fodder for sharpening your melee skills and satisfying test dummies to boot. So this seems to be the very beginning of the game, to be honest with you. Just based off the picture as well, we know the game most likely is going to start kind of on the road, maybe with them hunting. We see that in the trailer. And so I feel like this is the first attack when there's doing stuff, and then these are kind of like the tutorial enemies of the game. They talk about a mighty bear attacks is one of the first boss battles. So that is a little ambiguous, right? One of the first boss battles. It could be the first. It could be the first. Maybe you have to fight in the same way that they kind of did that in 2018. You may fight like just a classic big enemy. That's the first quote-unquote boss battle. Maybe you qualify it as a boss battle. Maybe you don't. And then Thor could be number 2. There's also a crocodile-like dragon beast that's kind of... So, and here's the thing. They're only allowed to talk about the first 5 hours of the game. That's another point. Maybe I didn't say that earlier. I'm sorry. That's very important, right? You can only talk about the first 5 hours. Some people are only talking about the first 3 hours, but I think 5 hours is the max. So the Thor thing happens in the first 5, but it's similar to Baldur, so I'm going to assume like an hour or so in. This, raider kind of attack, probably, the first 10 minutes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's going to happen, in my opinion. So, very cool. Very cool. Again, the PlayStation blog, I do think, is the best one, only because they kind of separate it into bullet points and kind of like titles. And, the other ones are really good, too. I like the PlayStation Access one with Robert S. Pearson, one of the best guys out there. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.